Chapter 181, The Light of Ideals. Imagine if those mechs, normally used for daily transport, high-altitude work, and construction, were fitted with full combat systems and spirit control interfaces. They would become relentless killing machines. A pilot's body would tire, their spirit would wane, their life could be extinguished. But with an external mech, you only have to issue commands and wear a remote spirit tool. The operator need not directly engage in the fight. Long Yewei's gaze clouded for a moment as she pictured countless cold, merciless machines surging forward, cutting down spirit masters. A spirit master's spirit power would be drained, their body injured, their spirit weakened, yet the mechs would simply keep coming. Exactly. This is the goal our Jisho Chamber of Commerce has always pursued. We want every ordinary person to be able to build their own strength through technology, Lanjia said with conviction, speaking for the team he represented. In truth, one important reason for the external mechs was Chen Zhou's desire to give machine beast warriors a chance to fight at full scale. The external mechs also conveniently provided cover for the existence of those warriors. After leaving the mech exhibition, Lanjia guided the Shrek Academy delegation into the next hall, a partitioned space whose walls were lined with inventive projects and student designs. It was a creative exhibition for young minds. Next, we'll showcase projects developed by some of the finest students from the East Sea Academies. These ideas may not be fully matured, but every one of them holds boundless potential, Lanjia announced, gesturing to a display. This is an agricultural rainfall spirit tool designed by students from Sealand Academy. By programming specific activation times and using a stored energy core, it triggers the rainfall mechanism encoded in the spirit tool to irrigate crops. The intensity and timing are adjustable to suit users' needs. The Shrek Academy students grew increasingly astonished as Lanjia spoke. They had always thought spirit tools existed primarily for combat and cultivation. Now they saw the same technology applied to everyday life. This breadth of application was clearly part of the East Sea educational model, ordinary people contributing to the city's development through thought and invention. The achievements of these ordinary students are incredible, Bo Xingyu murmured, admiration and disbelief warring on his face. Then he frowned. But it doesn't change what spirit masters are. Spirit masters are unique. Yili glanced at him with concern. Bo Xingyu, don't forget, this isn't just a tech showcase. It's a meeting of minds. Every era's breakthroughs come from a few bold innovators. Innovation doesn't respect status. Bo Xingyu said nothing. Despite his inward reluctance, the enthusiasm and curiosity emanating from the East Sea students slowly kindled a new respect in him. They moved on to a large conference room where representatives from academies across East Sea had gathered. Lanjia formally introduced the Shrek Academy group, and then the exchanges began in earnest. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered to promote the advancement of the whole world through sharing our experiences. Through this competition and exchange, we hope to understand each other's strengths and work toward mutually beneficial cooperation, Lanjia announced. Representatives from 24 academies debated fundamental theories of soul guidance technology and the latest papers released by the Supreme Research Group. The room buzzed with energetic discussion. Only the Shrek Academy delegation felt out of place. Accustomed to being the center of attention and treated with deference, they now faced young students whose hunger for knowledge was almost palpable. Each East Sea student seemed engaged, questioning and proposing improvements with unblunted enthusiasm. I think the spirit tool's design could be improved. If we add an intelligent recognition module, it could adapt to the user's movements and improve efficiency, a young student suggested, prompting an exchange among those nearby. With data analysis, we can make spirit tools more adaptive to different environments, another added, confident and excited. The Shrek students listened, feeling increasingly alienated. They had spent years cultivating, but against the tide of rapid technological innovation, they felt powerless, as if everything they'd learned over a decade were suddenly antiquated. Many of them stood in awkward silence, awkwardly circling exhibits, nodding where they couldn't follow. That sudden surge in soul guidance technology was not magic so much as a correction. Early theories had neglected grassroots development, and many simple, practical spirit tools had been buried under tradition. With the rise of the Jisho Chamber of Commerce, ordinary people began to realize their potential. They no longer wanted to rely solely on spirit masters' protection. They sought to change their fates with technology and knowledge. Chen Zhou, unwilling to accept a stagnant industrial state and rigid technological trends in his future logistics base, had dug through basic theoretical material in his vast knowledge reserves and promoted it alongside soul guidance technology. His actions released a wave of inspiration among common people. Creativity surfaced like a tide, and a virtuous cycle formed. At the heart of the region's success was more than policy. It was the result of careful cultivation of talent. Thanks to the covert Shadow Project, underground dissent and malicious rumors in the East Sea region were nipped in the bud by the silent work of Bi Baishan. And Long Hengshu, driven almost obsessively to reform the education system and leave a mark on history, traveled between dozens of academies to ensure this new generation received excellent instruction. The students chosen as representatives were overwhelmingly the best from their schools, well-mannered, talented, and full of potential. Their eyes shone with ideals. Their thirst for knowledge pushed them to explore without fear. This fervor unsettled the Shrek delegation. While Long Yeyue and Lan Muzi stood attentive, Yali and Nair wandered eagerly through the event, listening with childlike fascination as the young inventors explained their projects. Their curiosity contrasted sharply with the discomfort of those stuck in older ways of thinking. In the end, the transformation sprouted from a simple refusal to accept a backward industry. Chen Zhou's impatience with immobility, his determination not to see an industrial region trapped in outdated patterns, helped spark the spread of foundational theory and practical tools. Once ordinary people tasted the power of creating with their own hands, innovation became contagious. The result was a generation whose ideals burned bright, whose inventions promised not only convenience, but a new definition of strength. As the conference wound down, the Shrek Academy students remained torn between pride in their traditions and the recognition that the future might look very different. Around them, Eastsea's young minds continued to exchange ideas, their faces lit by that clear, eager light, the light of ideals. Chapter 182, Playing Dumb, Self-Deception. The debate at the activity conference continued, EC Academy students voicing their opinions as the room buzzed with energy. Suddenly, Bo Xingyu rose and cut through the din. His face was grave, uncharacteristically earnest. "Hold on," he said, his voice carrying across the conference room. "I want to ask everyone, don't you think this kind of development will strip spirit masters of their original value? If society comes to rely on technology and machines, then what will be the real meaning of a spirit master's existence?" There was a tremor in his voice, but it was laced with genuine concern for the standing of spirit masters. His words set off murmurs. The students who had received the new style education, especially those oriented toward technological research, bristled. If technology works, why not use it? If it's more convenient, why not make things convenient? Are you still stuck in the Stone Age? One student shot back rudely. Technological progress is irreversible. Relying on spirit power for everything is a thing of the past. If spirit masters can't keep up and are outpaced by technology, that would be the real tragedy, another added. Those remarks won quick assent and sparked a lively discussion. Bo Xingyu felt a sick unease and paled. He wasn't denying technology's strength, but he believed spirit masters should retain their uniqueness and worth. Lan Muzi gently pulled the flustered Bo back and scanned the faces around the room, trying to prompt a deeper reflection beyond simple worship of machines. But these students, products of a new curriculum and less bound by traditional reverence for Shrek Academy, had no special deference for the old guards. Many of them had fought hard to get into the Academy's intermediate and advanced departments, backed by families and their own effort. To stand here and debate with peers from other progressive schools was already a milestone in their lives. They saw strength and technology as the two engines of the world's progress and expected both to be embraced. To them, the elders' concerns sounded like fear of being left behind. "We're not denying technology's value," Lan Muzi began softly, trying for a conciliatory tone. But a spirit master represents more than just power. We embody responsibility and a mission. If the future depends only on machines and forgets humanity's spirit, what will we lose? His words hung in the air, but didn't land the way he hoped. The young students pushed back, brimming with confidence and not particularly interested in philosophical tangents. You're right that spirit masters shouldn't blindly rely on tech, but spirit masters must also stay relevant, a girl said firmly. If we hide behind tradition without pursuing progress, that's self-exile. We should accept new things and let science and spirit advance together. Bo's anxiety mounted. But don't you think over-reliance on technology will hollow out our souls? He asked, stepping forward, unable to hide behind Lan Muzi. Laughter erupted. The room broke into derisive chuckles that stung. Bo and Lan exchanged frustrated looks. The younger students were caught up in the potential of technology. They cared more about increasing farming yields and improving structural safety than debating whether spirit masters were the world's protagonists. To them, Bo's concerns sounded like boastful nostalgia. "What's a spirit master's value?" Bo demanded. "Aren't we the guardians of peace and order? Aren't we the source of strength for this world?" "And what if you are guardians?" a calm student from Eastsea replied. "To you, technology might seem like a novelty, but here it's the real power. The future is scientific, not only about supposed martial might." "Exactly. Your old-fashioned views can't keep pace with the times," another chimed in, and the exchange sharpened, clearly meant to shut down Bo and Lan's objections. Lanjia watched the scene quietly, smiling to herself. Long Hongshu's worry that Shrek Academy's dominance in the exchange match might make students raised on new-style education feel discouraged wasn't baseless. But those same students, influenced by modern teaching, would also shape the opinions of Shrek's less discerning admirers. One can pretend not to see or not to hear, but after witnessing and hearing it all, can anyone really continue to fool themselves? Bo Xingyu stood in the middle of the room, facing scorn and questions, his emotions roiling. He hadn't imagined that the identity he cherished as a spirit master would be treated so lightly. There was no reverence in these young faces, only an eager faith in technology and a casual dismissal of tradition. Bo's fists were clenched until his nails bit into his palms, but he felt no physical pain, only frustration, anger, and helplessness. He wanted to argue, to prove the worth of spirit masters, but the aggressive skepticism around him left him speechless. Lan Muzi remained beside him, watching with a more composed expression. He was calmer and more rational. He understood that the young student's questions were not entirely unreasonable. Technological advances had indeed reshaped the world, and the role of spirit masters deserved reevaluation. Still, he held fast to the belief that spirit masters were not obsolete. Their power was not merely destructive might, it was protection and creation. More than that, they embodied perseverance, courage, and the drive to transcend oneself, qualities technology could not replace. Chapter 183, Shrek Academy wants to reclaim its honor. Enough! Just as the discussion in the conference room grew increasingly heated, Longye's voice cut through it. It wasn't loud, but it carried an authority that instantly silenced everyone. She rose slowly, eyes sweeping the room before resting on Bo Xingyu and Lan Muzi. There was disappointment in her gaze, but also firm resolve. "Children, your arguments are meaningless." Her voice was calm and steady. "Technology and spirit masters are not opposed. Technology is a tool, a spirit master is a force. Tools can change the world, but a force protects it. Shrek Academy has never existed to reject progress. It exists to preserve the peace of the world." Her words eased the tension in the room. Lanjia stood to the side with a faint smile. He did not seem surprised. "Elder Long is right. Technology and spirit masters are not at odds." He spoke slowly, but his tone carried an edge of challenge. "But the question is Shrek Academy truly willing to accept that balance? Or are you only paying lip service while clinging to outdated ideas?" Long Yewe's eyes narrowed. She knew Lanjia's point had validity. Shrek Academy had a long history and deep traditions, and when faced with new things, it could appear conservative, even stubborn. "Shrek Academy will not be trapped in the past," she said. Her voice remained calm, but she added with a hint of remorse, "We are willing to accept new things and coexist with technology. But we will never abandon the spirit, the power of spirit masters. That is the foundation of Shrek Academy and the meaning of our existence. Lanjia only smiled a little and didn't press further. Long Yewei's statement had made Shrek Academy's stance clear. Conservative, perhaps, but not closed to the new. The debate could not be settled in a single meeting. The students realized that reasoned exploration and innovation, not quarrels, were the way forward. Silence returned to the room. Though many of the younger students still resented Shrek Academy's representatives, at least the hostility had cooled. "All right, let's end today's exchange," Lanjia said, easing the mood. "Next, we'll arrange a friendly match so everyone can see the strength of our East Sea representatives firsthand. Show your best, show the dignity of Shrek Academy." That remark set the Shrek representatives alight. They had been stung by criticism from academies they barely knew. Whether they had been the direct targets or not, the subtle barbs and mockery had left them indignant. Now they had a chance to answer with strength. The students of Shrek Academy felt their fighting spirit flare. They would prove that spirit masters still mattered and that Shrek Academy's honor deserved respect. Long Yewei saw the light in her students' eyes and felt a small easing of tension. This match mattered. It was a chance to reclaim honor. She turned to Lanjia. "Then arrange it. Shrek Academy is ready." Lanjia nodded. "Good. To the arena." They left the conference room and made their way to EC Academy's arena. The Shrek students walked solemnly, hearts full of resolve. This match was more than victory. It was about defending the Academy's dignity. The arena stood at the heart of EC Academy, a huge circular building ringed with towering stands that could hold thousands. When the Shrek representative team entered, the stands were already packed with students and teachers from across EC Academies, their faces eager and curious. Lanjia took the center of the arena and spoke loudly. "Next is a friendly match between the Shrek Academy representative team and the East Sea representative team. Rules follow a standard Spirit Master tournament. Each side fields 7 members for a team confrontation. Stop when necessary and do not intentionally cause harm." Enthusiastic applause and cheers answered him. The crowd was clearly excited. Long Yewei stood at the front of the Shrek team and addressed her students, voice steady. "Children, remember, this match isn't only about winning, it's about proving Shrek Academy's spirit. No matter how strong the opponent, give your all and show who we are." The Shrek students answered as one. "Yes." Their voices rang with confidence. They seemed already convinced of victory. At the same time, Chen Zhou entered the venue. His reputation, young master of the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, author of more than a dozen influential papers for the Supreme Research Group, chief compiler of the new educational textbooks, preceded him. Students who had studied under the new curriculum looked up in reverence. Chen Zhou's arrival intensified interest in the match. He stood at the highest point of the stands and surveyed the arena with calm eyes. He raised a hand slightly. That was his signal to begin. Lanjia took it up. "The match begins. Both teams enter the arena." The 2 teams stepped out from opposite passages. Shrek Academy's 7 were Ying Shiwei, Bo Xingyu, Nair, Zhang Lingchuan, and 3 other 4th-year spirit ancestors. Long Yu stood below the stage, a smile creasing her aged face. In individual strength, Shrek's lineup was exceptional. They were ready to reclaim their honor. Yali, also a team leader, watched with concern. Her spirit, the Angel of Prayer, had pushed her mental force near the peak of the spirit domain realm, and she could sense the East Sea team's differences clearly. Xu Xiaoyu, Su Xiaoyan, Ouyang Zixin, Zhang Yangzi, Wang Jinqi, and Ji Jingtong were the 6 carefully chosen geniuses from various academies' advanced departments, already at the level of Spirit Elder. Yet compared to Shrek's roster of full spirit ancestors, they seemed at a disadvantage. Still, the East Sea team's confident faces made Yali uneasy. There was a flicker of schadenfreude at their overconfidence, but beneath it came a growing dread. She glanced toward Chen Zhou, who had closed his eyes since taking his seat, and felt her heart lurch. Could it be? She stared up at Chen Zhou, and her chest tightened. Chapter 184, a deep sense of foreboding. The match begins. At Lanjia's command, both teams released their spirits at once. The light of their spirit rings flared across the arena, and powerful spirit power fluctuations swept through the venue. The Shrek Academy team spread into formation in an instant. Yingxiu and Nair, as attack system spirit masters, charged up front. Bo Xingyu and Jiang Lingquan, agility attack types, moved to flank and raid the sides. A control system spirit master clasped his hands and sent thick vines slithering up through the arena floor like a roaming dragon aimed straight at the East Sea representative team. Little motes of colored light scattered as a support system, Spirit Master specializing in amplification, consumed nearly 40% of his spirit power to buff the Shrek team. Another Spirit Master unfolded black wings and rose into the air, taking an elevated position with extreme mobility, ready to assist teammates or strike from above at any moment. Shrek Academy's coordination was seamless, their formation the product of endless drills and refinement. Their spirit rings were extravagant. With Academy resources tilted in their favor, they had entered and exited the Spirit Ascension platform with impunity, enhancing and tempering their soul spirits until almost everyone bore at least one 10,000-year spirit ring. That kind of strength could topple most opponents. Yet the East Sea representative team remained unnervingly calm in the face of Shrek's offense. They didn't rush to counterattack. Instead, they pulled back to create space and quietly release their spirits and spirit tools. Except for Chen Zhou and Xu Xiaoyu, the rest were three-ring spirit elders. But rather than relying on spirit abilities, they had prepared spirit tools from storage. 6 of them, excluding Chen Zhou, held different spirit tools, each emitting potent, pulse-quickening spirit power fluctuations. Their spirit rings might not match Shrek's luxury, but these spirit tools were formidable, and the team's mastery of them suggested long preparation. Xu Xiaoyu's silver-long spear and Ouyang Zixin's giant shield in particular glinted with the quality of rare, top-tier artifacts. Mr. Lanjie, isn't this unfair? Long Yewei's displeasure showed. What should have been a crushing victory for her favored team had become uncertain because those spirit tools could make up the gap. Dean Long, you must be joking. Can you not see these are only third-tier spirit tools? Lanjie countered. Or are the Academy's favorites afraid of spirit elders aided by third-tier tools? Long Yue was speechless for a beat. She did see the tools' tiers, but their design and functions still unnerved her, especially the team's facility with them, which suggested sustained practice. A faint worry tugged at her, though she masked it and replied coolly, "If that's the case, we'll just wait and see." Inside the arena, Shrek Academy renewed their assault. Just as their front lines readied to crash into the East Sea team, Xu Xiaoyu suddenly raised his spirit tool skyward and shouted, "Spirit Tool Array, activate!" At his cry, 6 members of the East Sea representative team injected spirit power into their tools. 6 beams leapt out and converged, forming a massive spirit tool array in midair. The array's light flooded the arena, and its spirit power fluctuations pressed down on the Shrek players, putting an edge of dread in their chests. "What is this?" Yingxiu exclaimed. She had never seen such a powerful array. She felt her own spirit power being suppressed. Bo Xingyu's face turned grave as well. The pressure was unlike anything he'd felt before, as if the entire arena were being governed by that force. Long Yue and Yali outside the venue grew grim. Though they'd known those spirit tools were strong, they hadn't expected them to compose such a terrifying array. Its power far exceeded expectations. Chen Zhou watched calmly from the stands, a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. He already sensed the match's inevitable outcome. The array's light intensified, and Shrek Academy felt their spirit power drain and their movements slow. The East Sea team, meanwhile, remained composed. They didn't attack immediately, but used the array to compress Shrek's movement space slowly and methodically. Ji Jingtong stood at the front, his tempered steel spear cold and ready. His eyes held absolute control. Ouyang Zixin planted her giant shield, a steady bulwark protecting her allies. The others executed their roles flawlessly. Their coordination made clear they had prepared for this long ago. They surrounded rather than struck, steadily wearing Shrek down. They knew that, unless Chen Zhou intervened, meeting Shrek head-on, even at their best, left them with under a 40% chance of victory. So they would wait for Shrek to slip. The moment the favored formation betrayed a flaw, they would switch the array's mode and drive into the gap like a steel drill. "We can't let this continue," Yingxiu ground out, determination flaring in her eyes. As an attack system spirit master, she could not sit idle. She inhaled deeply and unleashed a surge of spirit power. The phantom of her spirit stiffened behind her into a massive fiery phoenix. Fourth spirit ability, Phoenix Howl. Ying Xiue's cry rang delicate but fierce. Her fiery phoenix erupted into scorching flame, condensing into a towering column of fire and charging straight for the spirit tool array. She believed one strike of this magnitude could shatter the array and turn the tide for Shrek Academy. Just as the pillar of fire was about to slam into the array, Ouyang Zixin's giant shield flared with blinding light. Her third spirit ability, Sacred Shield Guard, activated. A thick spirit power barrier bloomed around the shield, absorbing Ying Xiue's Phoenix Howl and holding firm. Chapter 185, Selling Cheats. Boom. A pillar of fire smashed into the spirit power barrier with a deafening roar. Sparks flew everywhere, but Ying Xiue's Phoenix Soaring Strike failed to break through Ouyang Zixin's defense. Instead, it was thrown back by the barrier and scattered into nothingness. How is this possible? Ying Xiue's eyes went wide. Her Phoenix Soaring Strike was a spirit ability feared even by spirit kings, yet an elder-level spirit master had simply shrugged it off. Ouyang Zixin smiled coolly. Shrek Academy's attack-oriented spirit masters are nothing special. Ying Xiue's face drained of color. She had never imagined being outmatched by a spirit elder. Anger and humiliation flared in her chest. Her spirit power rose again, ready to unleash an even greater assault. Before she could strike, Bo Xingyu grabbed her arm and pulled her back. "Xiue, calm down." Bo's voice was low and urgent. "Their spirit tool array is suppressing us. We can't rush in blindly. We need to find their weakness and break the stalemate." Ying Xiue forced a breath and forced down her rage. Bo was right. A reckless attack would only play into whatever trap they faced. Even if Shrek Academy's defenders had flaws, they were still among the best talents across the Douluo continent and the Sun Moon Federation. From the Sea God Pavilion, master down to the newest students, they were all exceptional. But Chen Zhou had something else, cheats he could sell. The Jishou Chamber of Commerce's original trade had been portable spirit tools, and Chen Zhou had turned that into a battlefield advantage. He had simplified the confusion array he'd once used to capture experimental materials and converted it to run on spirit power. In just a few days, he'd taught the 6 teammates beside him to operate the array, an array that used spirit tools as anchors and spirit power as fuel. The simplified confusion array kept 2 key effects. It increased spirit consumption and magnified mental confusion. That was the plan. Under the pressure set by Lanjia, let the Shrek Academy team burn through their spirit power and stoke their rage so their coordination would crack. Shrek Academy lacked tactical depth, but their teamwork was superb. The confusion array would amplify frustration and force mistakes. Bo Xingyu realized that if they kept trading blows, they would simply play into the East Sea team's array. Their attacks would become their own undoing. "We have to break their formation," he said. "I'll test their defenses and create a distraction. Xiue, look for their weak point while I draw their attention." Everyone nodded as Bo outlined the plan. Pressure remained, but the team's morale steadied. "I'll hold them off. Take any opening," Bo ordered. With his voice carrying conviction, their confidence recovered. Bo abandoned his forward assault and moved instead with Shadow Kill Step, his second spirit ability. He melted like a shadow and darted to the rear of the East Sea representative team, taking advantage of the gap the spirit tool array had left. "Watch their back," Xu Xiaoyu warned, but Bo had already accounted for that. Using teleportation, he slipped into the enemy's backline and attacked, aiming to sever their conduction chain. Ji Jingtong reacted instantly, spear raised, his fighting spirit flaring. The two clashed as conflict threatened to explode. Bo twisted aside with lithe grace, rolling through the air and out of reach. He felt a flash of luck, but also the knowledge that he had just triggered the signal for a counterattack. "Now!" Bo roared. Seeing the East Sea formation momentarily loosen, Shrek Academy surged forward. They were no longer held down. Zhang Lingchuan and the other 3 spirit masters flanked left and right, while Nair charged headlong, her silver dragon spear tracing a bright arc toward the enemy. The East Sea representative team, however, was not without plans. Formation discipline ran deep in them. The chance to finally topple Shrek Academy was a temptation none of them could ignore. Ji Jingtong covered the rear while Wang Jinshi and Zhang Yangzi took the front. Feeling the pressure of the bloodline attack, Wang Jinshi drew on the familiarity of having trained with Tang Wulin. "Yangzi," he called. "Understood," Zhang Yangzi answered. Black energy screamed out. Zhang Yangzi leapt to Wang Jinxi's side, and they moved as one. A low dragon roar and an eagle's cry rang out as their bodies darkened and began to merge. Zhang Yangzi's form dissolved into black light, fusing into Wang Jingxi. Wings expanded from Wang Jingxi's back, a long tail burst from his hips, and both arms hardened into bone dragon claws. His body swelled, his aura soaring into something monstrous. The battlefield tightened. Shrek Academy's charge collided with the newly fused behemoth, and the air filled with the clash of spirit power and shattering force. The East Sea formation snapped back into place around their transformed front line, and the contest reached a new, more brutal pitch. Chapter 186, Alchemy Ornaments. Unlike 3 years ago, Zhang Yangzi and Wang Jinxi's spirit power had already reached the 3-ring level. After deciding back then to avoid Tang Wulin's interference, the two had grown closer in their tacit understanding. Naturally, their spirit fusion ability had become stronger and more complete, like a newly hatched bone dragon king. Nair showed a flicker of surprise, but mostly indifference. Her silver dragon spear struck out without mercy, cutting through the air like a brewing storm. "Take this." In an instant, the fused form of Wang Jingxi and Zhang Yangzi appeared before her. The massive black dragon body met the silver dragon spear and sparks flew. A deafening roar rolled across the arena as the energy fluctuations made the whole place tremble. Victory and defeat are decided in an instant. "Charge!" Bo Xingyu roared. Immediately, the Shrek Academy students ignited like a wildfire, focusing their minds and throwing themselves into the assault. The spirit guidance array still glowed. The East Sea team knew they had to hold fast and not allow Shrek Academy's assault to break their formation. Xu Xiaoyu and Ouyang Zixin began to coordinate a counterattack. "Protect the rear," Xu Xiaoyu ordered, gripping his spirit ice staff. Ouyang Zixin hefted her massive shield. The flash of her second spirit ring expanded it again, turning it into a towering wall that completely sheltered those behind her. Xu Xiaoyu poured spirit power into his staff, and a sheath of frost formed around them, ice and snow that impeded further attacks from Shrek Academy. On the right flank, Zhang Lingchuan rushed forward, his right arm crackling with blue-purple lightning, a lightning dragon claw, the blue lightning tyrant dragon spirit. Facing him stood Xu Xiaoyan. She had long since shed her former timidity. With her whole family striving upward, she refused to hold them back. Second spirit ability, Ice Spear. Third spirit ability, Blizzard, she called. The Star Wheel ice staff in her hand flared with spirit power, and the inherited bracelet Chen Zhou had given her pulsed with the same source. The ice crystal bracelet was one of Chen Zhou's spare alchemy creations. The Shu family of East Sea City had been one of the first neutral factions to pledge allegiance to Jishou Chamber of Commerce, and Chen Zhou had always viewed them favorably. The Shu family's current head had even become East Sea's Vice Minister of Commerce, helping develop the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, which was why Lan Jia and Long Hengshu had considered the Shu family when arranging personnel. Because Xu Xiaoyan's strength lagged behind, Chen Zhou had refined the ice crystal bracelet as teaching material while instructing Xuan Li and then given it to her. The Shu family had been deeply grateful. If the bracelet's effects were displayed as concrete data, they would read, Accessory, Ice Crystal Bracelet, plus 20% Spirit Power Recovery Speed, 15% Ice Element Damage. Special Effect, Pre-store Specific Skills for Instant Cast. Storage Quantity 3. Stored Ice Spear 3. Such benefits were astonishing to people who had never encountered such refined alchemical goods, and they cemented the Shu family's determination to bind themselves to the Jishou Chamber of Commerce rather than the East Sea alone. As Zhang Lingchuan's lightning-laced dragon claw charged, Xu Xiaoyan calmly released her third spirit ability, Blizzard, to slow him. Ice Spear. The ice crystal bracelet flashed, frost condensing into countless sharp spears that streaked toward Zhang Lingchuan. They couldn't completely block his advance, but they forced him to slow. A few spears grazed him, sinking cold into his bones and sapping his attack strength. Anxiety gnawed at Zhang Lingchuan. He had to find a breakthrough quickly, or he would be driven into a passive position. Meanwhile, the duel between Nair and Wang Jingxi had heated to a fever pitch. Nair kept pressing with her silver dragon spear, using the fluidity and reach of her spear play to disrupt his steady momentum. As the Sea God Pavilion master of Shrek Academy and a disciple of Yun Ming, dubbed someone who reaches toward the clouds while probing the netherworld, Nair's spear technique rivaled that of veterans who had trained for decades. Even against the high spirit compatibility of Wang Jingxi and Zhang Yangzi, she felt no pressure and was subtly suppressing them. At the same time, an omnipresent bloodline suppression made the usually steady Wang Jingxi increasingly uneasy, as if the power in his bloodline were forcing him into submission. "I can't lose. I won't give up," he thought. Under the dragon's influence, his eyes hardened. He inhaled, spread his wings to steady his injured body, and exploded with renewed power, lunging at Nair. She was startled and dodged, but his strike still caught up. Nair chose to take the initiative, aiming her spear at his heart, refusing to yield. Just as they were about to collide, Wang Jingxi thrust out a dragon claw to block the spear. Nair shoved with all her strength and performed a horizontal sweep to knock him back. Their impact sounded like thunder, the depth of their power fully on display. Everyone around the arena held their breath, afraid to miss the spectacle. Bo Xingyu, Ying Shiyue, and Zhang Lingchuan scanned for openings, searching for flaws in the East Sea team's formation. Watching the East Sea side gradually gain the upper hand under the Spirit Guidance Array, a sense of urgency rose in Bo Xingyu. He felt that unless they changed tactics, they had no chance of winning. "Don't stop! They're only at the Spirit Elder level," Bo Xingyu shouted, trying to rally their combined force to shatter the East Sea formation. Nair, engaged in battle, noticed Chen Zhou, who had remained silent at the edge of the arena. He seemed to be contemplating, his eyes deep and unreadable. "He really isn't participating in the fight," she whispered. In a corner of the arena, Chen Zhou slowly lifted his gaze to the field, a meaningful smile playing at his lips. He watched both sides closely, not rushing to act, but patiently analyzing their performances, as if he were an ancient demon king waiting to see which challengers had earned the right to face him. Chapter 187, Equally Matched. Although the EC Academy team had performed well so far, Chen Zhou knew Shrek Academy's students wouldn't give up easily. Just as he expected, Shrek's fighters began to probe for weaknesses, and the earlier suppression started to ebb. Bo Xingyu's aura flared again as he closed on Xu Xiaoyu, trying to break the East Sea team's tactical rhythm. It was a crude move. Anyone with a sharp eye could see it. Ji Jingtong shadowed him relentlessly, forcing Bo to decide under the threat of steel spears from every direction. "Do Shrek Academy's students only know how to hide?" Ji barked as he pressed the attack. Ji Jingtong, the designated heir of the Ji family in Tianhai City, was no slouch. His innate 9th-rank spirit power was only slightly below the full innate strength held by both Chen Zhou and Xu Xiaoyan. With Chen Zhou's spirit tool amplification and the spirit tool array still active around the East Sea defenders, the gap between them was shrinking. Even so, Bo Xingyu remained quick and unpredictable. He moved and struck with the ease of a practiced duelist, trading blows with Ji as though nothing had changed. "Shiwei, full power," someone shouted. "Nair, you go deal with Chen Zhou. Quick, finish this," came the order. Shrek Academy had always planned for Chen Zhou to be a threat. According to intelligence from a former student, Chen's spirit and combat talent were unmatched in the current world. Their original plan had been to force a quick victory. When that failed, they chose to conserve strength and lure the East Sea team into burning spirit power first, then overwhelm them and finally unleash everything on Chen. But now, they decided on a change of tactics. Ying Shiyue roared and let her fire phoenix spirit possess her. The arena temperature spiked as searing flame wrapped her body. She looked for all the world like a living phoenix. Her 4th spirit ring ignited, and the phoenix howl of the heavens swelled, more powerful than before. Flames condensed into a towering pillar and slammed into the East Sea team's spirit tool array. "Go all out, hold nothing back," Ying cried, and one by one, Shrek's fighters answered. Their spirit power surged, their strongest abilities erupted. Bo Xingyu became a blur. His third ability, Shadow Assault, pushed his speed to the limit, making him nearly impossible to catch. He ghosted to the east sea flank, his spirit coalescing into a cold blade that aimed straight for the back of Xu Xiaoyu. Zhang Lingquan's blue lightning tyrant dragon spirit erupted in a storm of light. His third ability, Thunderclap Shattering Strike, slammed into Ouyang Zixin's giant shield with earth-shaking force. The impact set the arena humming. Nair charged at Chen Zhou with the silver dragon spear flashing, a deliberate attempt to force him to react and pin him down. If Chen acted, Shrek could feel confident in a 6-on-6 confrontation, but if Chen failed to be drawn out, they would be stuck. Despite Shrek's full-power onslaught, the East Sea team did not falter. Their spirit tool array held firm. Streams of spirit power braided together and formed a resilient defense, while Xu Xiaoyu calmly commanded the formation. He drew an arc with his ice staff and activated his third ability, Ice Seal Domain. The arena floor iced over, sapping Shrek's speed. Ouyang Zixin's shield flared. Her third ability, Holy Shield Protection, transformed into beams that coated the 6 defenders, vibrating to negate 20% of incoming damage. Ji Jingtong's steel spear whirled as he unleashed Piercing Strike, aiming for Bo Xingyu's vital points. Under the Ice Seal Domain, Bo's evasive grace was dulled. He had to struggle to dodge Ji's thrusts. Wang Jingxi and Zhang Yangzi fused into the Bone Dragon King, rampaged on the field. Without Nair's earlier suppression, the massive black half-dragon even began to threaten Zhang Lingquan. Above, Sheng Yongge's soul-devouring raven swooped toward Xu Xiaoyan. He knew well that crippling the control-type Spirit Master would break the formation. On the edge of battle, Luo Yunnan lashed out and forced thick roots from the ground to block Xu Xiaoyan's retreat. Wang Jinxi's fused form proved more mobile than expected. With a powerful flap of great wings, he stomped through the advancing roots and tore them up, leaving Luo's route shredded. Calm and composed, Xu Xiaoyan slid closer to her brother, entering full combat mode. Second spirit ability, Ice Spear, she announced. Combined with the activation of her ice crystal bracelet, she unleashed a 4-fold release. In an instant, she became a living turret. Ice spears carved cold arcs through the air, hurtling toward Sheng Yongge and Luo Yunnan. Sheng was fast, but under the dense barrage he had to pull back, no longer able to threaten Xu Xiaoyan effectively. After his roots were crushed, Luo switched tactics and clasped his hands. His third ability, Vine Binding, sent countless thick vines erupting to entangle the Bone Dragon King. But Wang Jingxi's strength overwhelmed the vines. The instant they touched the Bone Dragon King, raw force shred them. They were useless for control. "Keep up the pressure. The Spirit Tool Array's effect is weakening," someone shouted. In the first direct clash, the East Sea team had stood against Shrek's assault and even gained a slight edge. Yet Spirit Tool Arrays still ran on spirit power. No matter how efficient, if a Spirit Master's reserves were drained, the output would fall. Shrek had been banking on that depletion and on drawing Chen Zhou into vulnerability once his allies exhausted themselves. Nair had already driven to Chen Zhou and leveled her silver dragon spear at his chest. "Chen Zhou," she said coldly, "it's your move." Chen Zhou smiled faintly and held his gaze on her, calm as if the skirmish around them were a distant thing. He raised his hand slowly and waved it once. An invisible ripple of spirit power spread outward like a faint pressure. Nair's silver dragon spear froze in the air less than an inch from his chest, unable to advance another millimeter. Chapter 188, 10,000-Year Soul Spirit. Chen Gugu. A sharp cry cut through the air in front of Nair. A dark gold shape shot out from Chen Zhou's chest and slammed into the arena. The blow stung so sharply that Nair had to brace with her spear and fall back fast. The creature was owl-sized, an owl that looked like a toy until it moved. Even so, despite being an affiliated persona of the Silver Dragon King and carrying 30% of his power, Nair found she could not force bloodline suppression on it. That realization hit her like an insult. Even as an avatar, she still bore a Dragon King-level bloodline, so why was this owl immune? "Gugu." The owl tilted its round head and stared at the silver-haired girl, its expression more playful than hostile. Then it spun its head toward Chen Zhou behind it, as if checking with its master. Chen Zhou only nodded in return, his face calm, and Chen Gugu bobbed happily, as if given permission to play. Gugu, it called again, then turned back to Nair. Seeing she remained tense and wary, Chen Gugu spread its wings and flapped, hungrily puffing out its round belly. The sound wasn't language, but the tone was mocking. Nair's lips curled in disdain, and she thrust the silver dragon spear forward, the point flashing cold light straight at Chen Gugu's chest. Chen Gugu reacted faster than she expected. With a single graceful flap, it lifted and slipped out of reach, untouchable. Gugu! It cried triumphantly as it circled in the air, and the motion made Nair's expression tighten. This wasn't an ordinary spirit beast. Its speed and reflexes were astonishing. There was even a flicker of pressure in the air, like another powerful presence. I'll kill that fat bird, Nair thought, lowering her guard and striking again. The spear traced a silver arc aimed to corner the owl. This time the attack was faster, more vicious, meant to cut off its escape. Chen Gugu only twisted in midair and dodged with ease. Then it slammed its wings and released a wash of dark gold energy. The surge hit Nair's spear with a shock that shoved her back several steps. She tasted bitterness and surprise. Such power from an owl? During the 2 years Chen Zhou had spent stocking up at the Spirit Ascension platform, he'd taken Chen Gugu everywhere, dominating the primary plateau and rampaging through the intermediate. Chen Gugu had already reached the level of a 10,000-year soul spirit. More than that, it had been constantly altered by the original energy Amethyst embedded in it. That Amethyst had rewritten its genes, grafting countless spirit beast traits onto the owl. At its core, it was still a night wind carved owl, but many parts had been fundamentally changed. The Terror Claw Bear's razor-sharp claws, the Rampage Black Steed's top-tier strength, the Swift Wind Mountain Falcon's lethal speed, even a metallic, machine beast body. From a bloodline standpoint, Chen Gugu could no longer be treated as a native soul spirit of this world. It wouldn't submit to the Silver Dragon King's suppression. Gugu. Chen Gugu gave no time for Nair to consider that. Raptors toy with prey, make it run until it's exhausted, then strike. Chen Gugu flapped again, sending waves of dark gold wind at Nair and forcing her into a steady retreat. Nair might draw some of the Silver Dragon King's power, but against a creature unaffected by her bloodline advantage, her superiority frayed. Watching Chen Zhou stand calm and superior beneath the owl eroded her composure further. His disdain burned on his face. If she couldn't even handle an owl, how could she confront Chen Zhou himself? Anger flared bright in Nair's silver eyes. As the prodigy disciple of Yun Ming and a student of Shrek Academy, she refused to be humiliated. The purple spirit ring on her finger pulsed, and the silver dragon spear flashed. She activated her second spirit ability, Silver Dragon Soaring. Silver light poured from the spear tip, as if a dragon had broken free of metal. A lance of tearing force launched straight at Chen Gugu. The speed and power of this strike dwarfed her previous efforts. Chen Gugu, a night wind carved owl steeped in wind element affinity, chirped once. It drew the dark gold edginess into the gusts from its wings, shaping the air into a tearing tornado to meet Nair's dragon strike head-on. Wind and light exploded together. "Come on," Nair murmured, her tension sharpening into resolve. The collision rent the very air. An immense shockwave rolled outward, scattering spectators back and throwing dust from the arena floor. The two forces crashed with a thunderous boom. Energy flared and blossomed like fireworks as the silver dragon soaring drove in and Chen Gugu's wind-twisted fury met it, neither yielding. Chapter 189, The Game's End. The hunt begins. At the same moment, a lithe figure leapt into the sky, the spear in her hand flashing brilliantly. The momentum from Silver Dragon breaking through the air still hung in the air when Nair's third spirit ring flared to life. The tip of her Silver Dragon spear erupted in a burst of silver light. Chen Gugu's cry cut through the arena, sharp, raptor-like, full of feral warning. The game's end. The hunt begins. Owls hunt with beak and talons, but Chen Gugu was no ordinary carved owl. Modified by adaptive genetics and fused with machine beast metal, its arsenal had expanded beyond natural means. A hooked beak, razor talons, wings that could slice through metal, raw surging power, a vision built for rapid targeting, and the terrifying defense of a metal body from the machine beast world. Its wings snapped wide, dark gold metal shimmering in the sun like twin blades. The creature traced a graceful arc and dove straight for Nair. Her silver dragon spear, though radiant, seemed distant against that metallic hull. Clang! Sparks flew as spear met wing in a shrill, metallic screech. Nair felt numbness shoot through her arm. The silver dragon spear almost slipped from her grasp. Alarmed, she retreated, trying to put distance between herself and Chen Gugu. But Chen Gugu's speed far outstripped her expectations. Its wings beat again, and it closed with lightning quickness, beak aimed at her throat. Nair's expression tightened. She swung her spear to block, but the creature's assault was simply too fast. The hybrid of human combat technique and raptor predation concealed its intent. Before Nair's defense was fully formed, the beak was nearly upon her. At that instant, Nair's fourth spirit ring flared to life. A dark, resonant surge of spirit power ignited the spear's tip in blinding silver light, wrapping her in a radiance that made her seem like a living silver dragon. Her aura leapt. "Silver light shattering void," she shouted, and the silver dragon spear stabbed forward with terrifying speed toward Chen Gugu's beak. "Gugu!" the creature cried, startled, and twisted to evade, but Nair's strike came too quickly. The spear hit like a blade of pure light, slamming into Chen Gugu's side and sending an enormous energy ripple through the air, held to their breath. When the two powers met, a shockwave rolled outward like a tidal surge, deafening and all-consuming. The sky itself seemed to tremble under the pressure. Seizing the moment, Nair fell back to avoid a counterstrike. Chen Gugu staggered from the blow but did not falter. It spun angrily, dark gold energy coalescing on its wings as it prepared a heavier counterattack. The vengeful core of an owl had been stoked. "Gugu!" The cry rose again, and the air answered. Wind came, gust, gale, hurricane, an elemental storm, answering the call of a carved owl. Long ago on the Douluo continent, such raptors had ridden the winds. The free spirits of sky and breeze would obey their summons. Azure breezes sang for them, strong winds charged for them, swift winds lifted them, gentle winds calmed them. They were night wind-carved owls, skyborn soul beasts that danced and lived with the wind. Even when wings broke and talons dulled, the wind could renew them. Their contract with the element was born from a cry released into the open sky. Having reached the level of a 10,000-year soul spirit, the exceptionally talented Chen Gugu had mastered that contract. It drew in the wind element and shaped a violent vortex centered on itself, trying to pull Nair into its eye. "Don't underestimate me." Nair grit her teeth. The silver dragon spear traced a series of sweeping, precise parries as she defended against the storm, desperately searching for an opening. Chen Gugu dove again, a sweeping gale trailing in its wake, attempting to corner Nair. It twisted in the air, wings spread, forming a brutal, dark gold whirlwind that drove the pressure skyward. "Too fast!" Panic tightened Nair's chest. The owl's agility and attack cadence overwhelmed her senses. She tried to activate a spirit ability, but Chen Gugu seized the chance and cut in with a succession of strikes. Crack! The attacks crashed over her like a ferocious squall. Nair had almost nowhere to go. The wind battered her balance and nearly toppled her. Seizing a moment from below, Chen Gugu whipped a talon up and struck Nair's leg, destabilizing her stance. "No!" she cried. In that desperate instant, Nair tapped the hidden power within her. A dragon roar, majestic and commanding as if to order heaven and earth, exploded from her. The wind stalled mid-blast. In the moment the storm lost speed, Nair drove the silver dragon spear forward with all the power she could muster. "Gugu!" The spear appeared like a streak of moonlight and slammed into Chen Gugu's chest. The creature was thrown back by the force, wings spinning as it clawed to regain its altitude and balance. Chen Gugu let out a low, surprised cry, eyes flashing with anger and menace. To a beast in hunting mode, the most important lesson is to teach the prey that the hunt can wound. But blood only fans the flames of savagery. Pain feeds the predatory soul. The owl's cry swelled into a bellow that seemed to shake the arena. The dark gold storm about it intensified, slicing outward with renewed violence. Chen Gugu drew upon a sharp, tearing characteristic reminiscent of a terror claw, razor energy that made the storm's edges deadly. "I can't let it keep getting stronger," Nair thought, and without hesitation unleashed another spirit ability, pushing to drive the creature back. Her spear flared with concentrated silver intent, poised. "Come on, let's see how many of my attacks you can take," she shouted, pouring out spirit power. The air in the arena grew heavy with energy. In front of her, several silver dragon shadows split off from the spear and streaked through the sky like the descent of a dragon god. Each carried an overwhelming aura, each aimed straight at Chen Gugu. Chapter 190, Suppression. Chen Gugu's roar tore through the air as his wings beat violently. A dark golden storm swirled around him, forming a powerful protective barrier meant to blunt Nayar's assault. He drew a deep breath, steadied himself, and charged forward to collide with her attack once more. Boom! The impact rang through the arena, a deafening clap that sent energy rippling outward and shaking the ground. The spectators' eyes widened. This duel had reached a white-hot pitch. Nayar kept her offense relentless, and Chen Gugu answered in kind. Their struggle looked like two titans clashing, one silver-white and surging, the other a furious gale. Both carried overwhelming momentum. Neither yielded an inch. Just a soul spirit is this powerful. What about him? Nayar thought, stunned. A mere soul spirit could display such force, and it didn't seem to be affected at all by the Silver Dragon King bloodline. Her apprehension toward Chen Zhou deepened. Watching Chen Zhou lounge there, bored and merely observing, confusion flashed across Nayar's face. If she couldn't even defeat his soul spirit, how could she hope to challenge Chen Zhou himself? Sensing her hesitation, Chen Gugu seized the opening. The chubby spirit moved with deceptive speed, a blade piercing downward, the dark golden storm clinging to him as he dove. Ah! Alarm shot through Nayar. She yanked back the spirit ability she'd been using and tried to meet the blow with the silver dragon spear. Her arm shook, the spear tip flared with white-silver light, but Chen Gugu had already closed the distance and struck. Gugu! The cry rang like a bell of thunder. The dark golden storm surged, threatening to swallow the entire arena. Nayar felt the pressure immediately, nearly losing her footing. She slammed the silver dragon spear horizontally to block the charge. Boom! The impact hurled her backward. She skidded across the ground, leaving deep gouges as the gale swept the spear nearly from her grip. Chen Gugu spread his wings and climbed back to high altitude, perching at a distance to look down at her, savoring the moment. Humph! Just a soul spirit after all, he sneered. Nayar's chest burned with fury. She struggled to her feet and looked up at Chen Zhou, then at the spirit who'd bested her. She refused to be suppressed. As a member of Shrek Academy, she would never bow. I will win, no matter the cost. She gritted her teeth, tightened her hold on the silver dragon spear, and rose. The silver dragon soul within her surged, restoring her resolve and bolstering her spirit power. Bloodlines, unfair things, she thought. But so am I. Chen Gugu scoffed from above. A loser thinks she can turn the tables? The absolute pressure had only fanned the fighting spirit in Nayar's heart. As she struggled to stand, her spirit power built into a roaring torrent. She was willing to pay any price for power, no matter the danger it invited. Chen Zhou, I'll show you my true strength. Her voice was steady despite the fear knotted inside her. She lifted the silver dragon spear, and silver light pooled along its shaft like a dragon rearing its head. The air itself seemed to tear under the strain of that light. She drew a deep breath, pushing her spirit power to the limit. Her fourth spirit ring flared in response. Silver Dragon Array, she whispered, calling up a technique like a prayer. The surrounding space subtly shifted. Invisible filaments of silver light braided under her control and formed a protective pattern around her, making Nayar the array's center. The power of her bloodline swelled again, and her spirit surged outward like a tide. From above, Chen Gugu felt the change and twisted his head, alert. As Nayar's fluctuations intensified, his dark golden storm thickened into layered defenses. He knew he couldn't take her lightly. Gugu, he cried, and attacked. Nayar's consciousness snapped back to the array's core, her eyes sharpened. The silver light exploded into several shimmering dragons that lunged at Chen Gugu with thunderous roars. Break for me, she cried, channeling gusting currents along with the dragon shapes. Chen Gugu gathered the wind elements between his wings. This moment could not be lost. He had to meet the attack with full force. He answered with another commanding cry, dark golden light flashing along his wings as condensed wind formed an even more intense storm to oppose the silver dragons. The collision was cataclysmic, as if heaven and earth themselves split, the air filled with wrecking waves of force and a blinding afterglow. Rings of energy rolled outward, accompanied by bone-rattling sound. Spectators covered their ears, faces pale with shock. Nair was utterly focused. She knew the strike's key. If she could suppress Chen Gugu, she'd open a window for a decisive counter. The roar of her bloodline and the unity of her soul made her feel as if she were a true silver dragon, unbound and soaring. The impact waves from the clash fused the silver dragons and the dark storm into a tumult of tearing sound and light. The two powers locked into a deadlock, neither breaking, a perfect balance of opposing force. As the eruption continued, anxiety melted into clarity in Nair's chest. Her aim was no longer merely to defeat Chen Gugu. It was to shatter her own limits and seize greater strength. "Ah!" she yelled, pouring every ounce of spirit power into a single push to disperse the dark golden storm. The brief stalemate gave her a fragile advantage. Bolstered by the Silver Dragon Array's cohesion, the sharp silver dragons drove into the core of the dark golden storm and finally forced a split between the opposing forces. Boom! Another thunderous explosion lit the arena, a streak of brilliance that scattered sparks like fireworks. The two energies fractured, and for a heartbeat, everything hung on the edge of change. Chapter 191, Ace Pilot Chen Gugu applies to go to battle. Fei Gugu applied to enter the battle. At that moment, the usually impassive Chen Zhou was the one taken aback by the violent sway of power on the field. He lifted his head a fraction, his eyes soft as water, as he watched Nair pour everything into her attack. A faint, anticipatory smile crossed his face. "I didn't expect you to pull that much out of her," he murmured, more curious than surprised. Not far off, Bo Xingyu, Ying Xiyue, and Zhang Lingchuan all felt Nair's surge of strength. The prolonged fight had drained the spirit power of the 6 members of the East Sea representative team who were sustaining the spirit tool array. Their reserves were precarious now, and the suppression they could exert against Shrek Academy and the others had weakened markedly. "Nair, hang on!" Bo Xingyu shouted, his voice cutting through the din of the arena. "Look after yourself first." Ji Jingtong's eyes flashed with regret. Their coordination hadn't been tight enough. They'd let too many openings slip by. At this point, their loss in the 6-on-6 match against Shrek Academy was nearly inevitable. All they could do now was take down as many opponents as they could before the end. Unrivaled Vanguard, Ji Jingtong's tempered steel spear flashed, cold and bright. If he donned armor, he would have looked every inch a Vanguard general. With every attribute enhanced, he surged forward, spear driving like a dragon's fang, his speed even outpacing Bo Xingyu. "Silver Dragon tears the sky," Nair roared, and the silver dragon power that had been rising around her coiled up again. From the tip of her spear erupted the largest silver dragon they'd seen so far, soaring straight into the heavens. The sheer force held everyone breathless. Fei Gu, however, showed no fear. Excitement lit the creature's chest as it poured dark gold storm internal power into its strike and met Nair head-on. 2 titanic forces collided in midair, tearing at the space between them. The clash sounded like a rift in the world itself. The arena shuddered. Dust and debris kicked into the air. Boom! The impact seemed to rip the arena apart. Deafening thunder rolled and rolled, tightening spectators' throats. The collision threw up suffocating energy fluctuations. The air thinned, and for a heartbeat, time itself felt suspended. A blinding, star-like sphere of light enclosed the combatants. The display exceeded everyone's imagination. For a long moment, the whole crowd held its breath. Powered by the dark gold storm, Fei Gu went berserk. Its wings spread wide, as if to swallow attacks and convert them into raw, overwhelming force. Dark gold light pulsed around it, illuminating the night like a descending god. "Gugu!" With a sharp cry, Fei Gu flashed forward again, a storm of dark gold energy churning as it closed in on Nair, its speed spiking like a meteor breaking orbit. The torrent of its assault bore down on Nair and crushed the space around her. Nair's heart steadied. She could not retreat. The silver dragon spear in her hands flared with new radiance, more brilliant than before. She understood clearly now. She was alone in this final moment. Drawing every last ounce of her spirit power, she swung the spear once more. The condensed silver dragon burst from the spear, proud and indomitable. It roared like thunder and became a bolt of silver lightning, racing to meet Fei Gu's onslaught. Silver light and dark gold radiance braided together, churning the air into furious tides. I'm really going to lose. Exhaustion, fatigue, drained spirit power. Watching Fei Gu bear down on her and feeling her last depleted strike fail to turn the tide, Nair knew the truth. Defeat loomed. She was unwilling. After releasing her final attack, she collapsed onto the arena platform, utterly spent. She managed one last look at the young man who watched her calmly, curiosity glittering in his eyes. Then she slid into unconsciousness. Just a soul spirit and already so formidable. How strong, then, would he be? Bo Xingyu and Ying Xiue muttered as they read the situation. Now they could only fight with everything left in them. But if Fei Gu had been unleashed to play, he certainly wasn't going to be denied the chance to enjoy himself. Chen Zhou looked on indulgently as the somewhat disordered Fei Gu padded up to him. The creature's metallic fur softened as it acted puppy-like, rubbing against him and making a comically tense, odd atmosphere across the arena. Goo-goo-goo-woo! Chen Zhou smiled and reached out, ruffling Fei Gu's fluffy head. Crimson gold spiritual light flared from his eyes as he traced array patterns in the air. Symbols flickered like distant stars, signing themselves into existence. Reflection, azure wind returns, he whispered. The azure green alchemy array hummed, and the ancient winds that forever flowed over the heights answered. They broke through the clouds and poured down, turning the arena into a kingdom of winds, a hurricane of invisible current that separated this space from the rest of the world. Spectators watched, wide-eyed, a mixture of surprise and expectation on their faces. This is wind power? Bo Xingyu and Ying Xiue exchanged glances. Unease creased their features. Goo-goo-woo. Fei Gu perked up at the change. After brushing again against Chen Zhou, it spread its wings and took to the air. The wind howled as it streaked above the platform, a dark gold blur too fast for the eye. If Nair had been forced to fight Fei Gu in an arena dominated by these winds from the start, the fight would have been over in a few rounds. It was already late, but not too late. The East Sea representative team had been on the edge several times. If not for the spirit fusion skill of Zhang Yangzi and Wang Jingxi providing constant support, the match would already have tipped. Even then, as two spirit elders only at the three-ring stage, their fusion power was draining, effective, but consumable. Now, though, ace pilot Fei Gu had officially applied to enter the battle. Fei Gu dived and carved the skies in streaks of dark gold light, scattering sparks with every pass. When a raptor toys with its prey, it delights not just in the kill, but in watching its quarry's will and strength ebb away. Goading the weak until they break, that was Fei Gu's favorite sport. To push an opponent like Nair to the brink, that was pure cruelty and utterly satisfying. The winds rose, the crowd held its breath, and the arena braced for the next move. The balance had shifted. The game had entered a new, more dangerous stage. Ace pilot Fei Gu was in the sky. Chapter 192, Victory. Enjoying the whistling wind, Chen Gugu let out a playful goo-goo, and the arena tightened with a charged excitement. All eyes turned to the dark golden spirit as it darted through the air like a living gust, easily evading the Shrek Academy team's attacks. It tilted and dove from above with terrifying low growls, leaving wounds and bloodstains in its wake. It was obvious Chen Gugu could have ended the fight in an instant, but instead it savored the moment, repeatedly imposing that suffocating sense of imminent death, dragging its opponents deeper into despair. Chen Gugu circled like a hawk watching prey, triumphant and playful. Now and then it sent down slashing ripples of dark golden energy that cut through Bo Xingyu, Ying Xiue, and Zhang Lingchuan like blades. "Xingyu, dodge, now!" Ying Xiue shouted. Bo Xingyu concentrated his spirit power into his legs and leapt, but Chen Gugu had already locked onto him. It screamed with the wind and tore through him. His body ruptured under the attack, and he lost all ability to react. He fell through the dark golden light, coughing up blood. Ugh! His hoarse, painful cry spread through the arena and tightened everyone's chests. That tide of despair washed over them. "Luo Yunnan, think of something, fast!" Zhang Lingchuan yelled, his voice sharp with urgency, trying to spur whatever hidden strength might be left. I don't know." Luo Yunnan's voice trembled. He, too, felt the pressure crush in. One wrong move could mean disaster. Fear surged like a wave, almost choking him. Chen Gugu did not relent. If anything, it became more triumphant, its gaze sweeping the other team members as if picking its next target. These little guys are truly disappointing, Chen Gugu murmured, or perhaps the thought echoed from its master. Then, from the viewing platform, a calm voice cut through the chaos. We surrender. Long Yewei closed her eyes. She stood there as the vice pavilion master of the Sea Gods Pavilion at Shrek Academy, famed for light and dark techniques. Yet now she could do nothing but concede. Her fists clenched, but her words were final. Lan Jia, representing the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, sneered. Seeing Shrek Academy falter pleased him immensely. He glanced at Chen Zhou with a fanatical gleam. How dare a group of nobodies challenge the Lord? Silence fell as Long Yewei's words died away. The audience stared at one another, incredulous. Shrek Academy, the legendary school that loomed over the Spirit Master world, had surrendered in a match? It was shocking. On the battlefield, however, it was an inevitable choice. Facing Chen Gugu's blinding speed and killing power, the Shrek team had been ground down. Bo Xingyu, Ying Xiyue, Zhang Lingchuan, and the others were lacerated and bloodied, their spirit power nearly spent. Luo Younan, Zhang Yangzi, and Wang Jingxi were still standing, but their spirit fusion skill had been driven to its limit and could not be sustained. Surrender? Chen Zhou raised an eyebrow, his gaze sweeping the defeated team. A faint smile tugged at his lips. It seems you finally recognize the gap. Calm and authoritative, his words carried weight. Chen Gugu descended slowly beside him and gave a low gugu, a small sound of loyalty and obedience. The Shrek students on the field exhaled as taut nerves finally relaxed. One by one, they sank to the ground. The East Sea team, meanwhile, began to grasp the enormity of what had just happened. They had won against Shrek Academy. For a moment, everything was stunned silence. Then the stands erupted. Cheers drowned the arena. Flags waved. Voices swelled into waves of sound, chanting, "East Sea, East Sea, East Sea." The East Sea representatives looked at one another, incredulous and elated. They had actually beaten a myth. Many in the crowd were students from other East Sea academies, students raised on modern teaching methods and long resentful of Shrek Academy's prestige. Hearing their rivals praised for triumph was intoxicating. Their spirit cultivation still lagged behind Shrek's, their raw combat strength inferior, but by equipping spirit tools of comparable level, they had managed to suppress the legendary Shrek team, if only briefly. That, to them, represented something more. Soul guidance technology was changing the balance. Spirit tools could leap ranks quickly. Elites and prodigies could be challenged. Progress was happening, and in the future scenes like this would only become more common, until complacent spirit masters who looked down on soul guidance found themselves eclipsed. Ying Xiyue and the others bowed their heads. The cheers stung. They should have been the ones celebrating. Shrek Academy's undefeated aura had cracked, and the moment was broadcast live across the East Sea and recorded by news outlets across the continent and Federation. Even Yali, team leader and Sea Gods Pavilion vice pavilion master, felt a bitter hollow, but her duty came first. She moved to treat the injured. She activated sacred light art. Yali, whose spirit was Angel of Prayer, was the continent's foremost healing titled Douluo. Mending these wounds was second nature to her. As sacred light bathed both teams, she healed injuries and helped spirit power recover. Standing there, offering aid to anyone who was not truly evil, she was hailed as a merciful figure. Thanks to the generous support from Night Deer's Hua Renju, DNC, Sanya Yangguang, Xiao Yi, Mifan, and Ilixia, I have bonus chapters to release today. I was too tired last night and fell asleep, so here are today's bonus chapter updates. Popularity bonus, 263,230, plus 1 chapter. Average subscription bonus, 4140 plus 1 chapter. Donation update, 184,500 plus 2 chapters. Including the 3 regular chapters, I still owe 2 more, for a total of 9 chapters. Finally nearly caught up. Hope to get a good night's sleep this weekend. Please, only donate if you really want to. Chapter 193, Time Will Tell. Physical wounds can heal, but psychological bruises linger. Bo Xingyu rose slowly, his expression tangled as he looked at Chen Zhou and the little Chen Gugu. He had never imagined being so thoroughly defeated. As Shrek Academy's favored son, he had always been proud, certain he was the best among his peers. Today had shown him there was a vast gulf between pride and real power. Chen Zhou, Bo Xingyu murmured, the old ache in his legs still faintly present. Unwillingness flashed across his face. but more than that was a new, indefinable awe. Yingxue stepped up beside him, patted his shoulder, and whispered, "Xingyu, don't be discouraged. We've got a long road ahead. This loss will only make us stronger." Bo Xingyu nodded, drew a deep breath, and tried to steady himself. Yingxue was right. Failure wasn't the end. Losing yourself in it was. He had to learn from this match, find his weaknesses, and work past them. On the spectator platform, Long Yewei watched Chen Zhou with an expression that was hard to read. As Vice Pavilion Master of Shrek Academy's Sea God Pavilion, she saw further than most. She couldn't deny that Chen Zhou's appearance could change the whole Spirit Master world. "Chen Zhou," she murmured, complexity in her tone. She already understood that this young man would become Shrek Academy's greatest rival. Meanwhile, the East Sea representative team drowned in celebration. They hugged, jumped, and shouted as if the hardships of the match had been wiped away. For them, this was more than a win on the scoreboard. It was a vindication of their belief. "We won. We really won," Zhang Yangzi cried, tears glittering at his eyes. Wang Jinshi clapped him on the shoulder with a grin. "Yes, but this is only the beginning. There are more challenges ahead." Ouyang Zixin looked at Chen Zhou like a man seeing a god, his eyes shining. These teammates knew better than anyone that they'd only trained for a few days and yet had achieved things they'd never dared dream of. Xu Xiaoyu had her own private thoughts. Young Master Chen's strength was so great that his sister might stand little chance against such power in the future. Voices echoed through the arena, as if proclaiming the dawn of a new era. Chen Zhou watched them and let the corner of his mouth lift in a small smile. His aim had been accomplished. The match had shown the world the potential of soul guidance technology and had shattered Shrek Academy's aura of invincibility. From now on, the prestige of being the continent's #1 academy would be harder to claim. Combining Spirit Master and Spirit Tool would become an unstoppable trend. Chen Gugu rubbed against Chen Zhou's hand and gave a low, loyal cry. Chen Zhou stroked the little creature's head and whispered, "All right, let's go." The two of them left the arena amid cheers, their figures gradually receding until they were out of sight. But Chen Zhou's name had been etched into everyone's memories. He had shone like a brilliant star, lighting a path for the future of the Spirit Master world. It was certain that the news of the match would sweep the continent. Major outlets would scramble to report every detail. Debates about soul guidance technology, Chen Zhou's power, and Shrek Academy's defeat would explode everywhere. Old barriers set up by the Tang sect and the Sun Moon Federation would be shaken. "You won," Long Yewei said, her gaze fixed on Chen Zhou's retreating back. Beside her, Lan Jia, the Jishou Chamber of Commerce representative, listened. "But this victory doesn't mean you've truly surpassed Shrek Academy," Long Yewei added, her voice cool and measured. The arena hushed, every eye flicking between her and Chen Zhou as if waiting for the next strike of fate. Lan Jia smiled faintly and replied in a composed voice, "Vice Pavilion Master Long, the result is what it is. Shrek Academy's undefeated image has been broken. That can't be denied. Whether we've truly surpassed them, time will tell." Long Yewei's expression tightened. She could not stand anyone belittling Shrek's reputation, yet she knew arguing now would only make her seem petty. She inhaled, tamped down her displeasure, and said lightly, "Then we will wait and see." Chen Zhou was unconcerned with the post-match politics. Shrek's reasons for coming had been more than just to show strength. There were vague talks of cooperation. The upheaval in the East Sea would be handled by people like Huo Wuji and Lan Jia. Chen Zhou had other matters to attend to. Alchemy. "Gale, summon!" Swanli's voice rang out. The petite girl nestled against Chen Zhou's side, and with a casual flick of her hand, alchemy energy condensed into an array. A gust of wind screamed forward, striking the target dead center. Chen Zhou ruffled her hair with an indulgent smile. Talented disciples could be trying in short bursts, lazy in others, childish and easily distracted, but their results could be astonishing. Xuanli's natural gift for the star god arts made even fragmented traces of that power extraordinary. Chen Zhou refocused. Alchemy energy in his palm flowed and shifted, fusing and splitting, dying and rebirthing. His mental force braided with the alchemy energy, forming and dissolving illusionary worlds in the space of a breath. Through that weave, he continued to draw Xuanli's attention, for she held within her the essence of the world itself. Watching her clap and marvel at the scenes he shaped in his hand, Chen Zhou felt a fond, helpless pride. There were long roads ahead, and the match had only begun to rip open new possibilities. Time, he knew, would reveal how far those possibilities would reach. Golden Claw God, mobilize troops and horses for me. The spirit of the Douluo Star, ancient for hundreds of thousands of years, had long since been worn thin. Only a faint residue of its original soul essence remained. Even with the Amethyst of original energy and the War King Token to shore up the void, Xuanli was, in soul terms, a newborn. Born of Chen Zhou's creation, her patterns of thought tended to mirror his species. For that reason, Chen Zhou often brought her to East Sea Academy, hoping to steep her in knowledge and give her a feel for the world. Xuanli's talent, however, was startling. She learned everything Chen Zhou taught quickly, and in many cases extrapolated beyond the lessons, showing a wisdom far beyond her apparent age. Chen Zhou felt both pride and unease. Wisdom for its own sake wasn't enough. Power derived from knowledge must be guided by wisdom in action. Xuanli, that's enough for today. Chen Zhou dispelled the illusory world between his hands and gently patted the child's head. Xuanli looked up, reluctant for a heartbeat, before a bright smile lit her face. Freed from study, she burst out onto the emerald lawn of East Sea Academy like a fawn, light as a swallow, each step seeming to rest on clouds. Her laughter chimed like silver bells, filling the air with life. Her face was a blossom of innocence. Her eyes shone with endless curiosity. Chen Zhou watched her without protest, his mental force drifting out, sensing something different. Xuanli's running wasn't aimless play. For a star god, no one knew the heaven and earth of their origin better. Each step she took seemed to resonate with the land. The grass beneath her feet shivered as if answering her presence. Chen Zhou's mental force picked up those subtle currents. Every movement of Xuanli's was forming invisible connections with the world around her. Indeed, Chen Zhou thought, the affinity between a star god and heaven and earth is profound. Her laughter carried a pure energy that harmonized with nearby natural forces, quietly nourishing the land. He stood to the side watching, thoughts turning to larger questions. Xuanli was not merely a new star god, she was the birth of a new life form. How would her growth reshape the world? How would her power alter the future? He had no answers yet, only the certainty that her cultivation would be long and complex, and that as her creator, he must guide and guard her. Lost in thought, Chen Zhou felt Xuanli stop. She turned to him, a strange light in her eyes. "Brother, I feel something strange." Chen Zhou came to her side. "What do you feel?" "It's like something is calling me," she said, brow knit, searching for the right words. "But I can't explain it." A prickle of vigilance ran through Chen Zhou. His dormant mental force sprang to life and fanned out. Found it. A shadow darkened his expression. To him, Xuanli was not just a student, she was what he valued most. Whoever dared to touch her would find themselves courting death. Chen Zhou did not act rashly. He stroked her hair and called to the black armor beast guards who had been escorting them. Massive, armored figures approached with disciplined steps. "My lord." They halted, awaiting orders. "Take Xuanli home. If anyone tries to interfere, eliminate them without mercy." Chen Zhou's voice was calm but absolute. The guards bowed. "Yes, my lord." Xuanli, sensing the change in tone, nodded obediently. "Brother, I'll be good." "Go, wait for me at home," Chen Zhou said, giving her shoulder a reassuring pat. Once Xuanli was safely under escort, Chen Zhou's expression hardened. His mental force surged outward like a tide, locking onto the source of the calling. The other party didn't know of Xuanli's existence, yet had the skill to attract and guide her. With the Black Armor Beast Guard's protection, each a level 10 combatant who had mastered the Golden Claw God's 6-star array, Chen Zhou felt confident in her immediate safety. This was East Sea City, the Jishou Chamber of Commerce's stronghold. Machine Beast warriors would mobilize at the first disturbance, and Huo Wuji was stationed nearby. Chen Zhou retrieved his spirit tool communicator and pressed his call. "Golden Claw God, send me troops and horses. Evacuate the crowd and surround the hotel where Shrek Academy is staying." His voice was cold and commanding. On the other end, the Golden Claw God answered without hesitation. "Yes, my lord. I'll arrange it immediately." After ending the call, Chen Zhou's eyes flashed with a hard light. He disliked using power to bully others, but anyone who laid a hand on Xuanli would be dealt with decisively. In Eastsea, even Shrek Academy had to show restraint on Jishou territory, and in front of Chen Zhou, arrogance would not be tolerated. On the other side of the city, Nair ended the faint mental force fluctuations she'd been sending toward heaven and earth. Exhaustion washed over her like a tide. Yali looked at her with concern, puzzled. Is that so-called genius really that important to you? Yali's question was laced with helplessness. As Nair's teacher, she knew her stubbornness, but she didn't understand why Nair was so fixated on a genius she had never met. Nair only gave a tired smile and closed her eyes, the strain of calling the world and listening to its echoes still lingering in her bones. Chapter 195, A Seed of Divinity. Yes, Nair, what exactly is going on? Long Yeyue's confusion deepened. After regaining her strength, Nair had sat by the window and quietly pushed out her mental force, guiding it towards something intangible. It was as if the world itself answered her, an interaction that even Long Yeyu, a top-tier mental force practitioner in the spirit domain, couldn't make sense of. Elder Long, teacher, you wouldn't understand, Nair said. That is, a seed that could theoretically become a divinity, she continued. My family mentioned such things before, something that can resonate with the world. I don't fully understand it, but it felt very close. Her aura is incredibly pure, like she's one with the world. It's only through my particular meditation method that I could sense it. Before, I thought those elders in my family exaggerated. There was a tiredness in Nair's voice, but also steel. She wasn't telling the whole truth. She was the Silver Dragon King's subordinate personality avatar and had no family in the usual sense. But the explanation served its purpose. Yali and Long Yewei exchanged a look. They'd heard of Nair's odd background and knew her identity had been investigated when she became Yun Ming's disciple. Whatever mysteries clung to her, one thing was clear. Everyone connected to Shrek Academy treated one another as family, so they hadn't pressed it. But when she used the word divinity, both elders felt the blood drain from their faces. Divinity was no mere myth on this continent. The first-generation Shrek 7 devils from 20,000 years ago, the spirit ice Douluo and butterfly god Douluo from 10,000 years ago, legends of godlike figures were woven into the history every spirit master grew up hearing. Every exceptional spirit master dreamed of ascending to divinity, but the god realm had vanished. The old route, inherit a god position, step into the god realm, was cut off. These days, if anyone aspired to godhood, they had to carve a god position from scratch. It was an unimaginable, near impossible task. If Nair's senses were correct and a talent existed who could reach divinity directly, the implications for the whole spirit master world would be enormous. Nair, are you certain? Long Yeyu asked, her voice low and immediate. Nair's eyes shone with resolve. I'm sure. I can't fully describe it, but the connection between that existence and the world is extremely close, like she's part of the world itself. I've only read about an aura this pure in ancient family records. Yali drew a long breath, steadying herself. If that's true, we must find her. We can't let such a genius fall into someone else's hands. Long Yewei's expression hardened. Shrek Academy must take the initiative, at all costs. Only Shrek Academy can cultivate such a genius, Nair said, then paused. A flicker of hesitation passed through her face before it steadied. Teacher, Elder Long, I don't think we should use force. That existence is very sensitive. She only responded once before cutting off my guidance. If we act too aggressively, we might push her away. Yali and Long Yeyuo exchanged thoughtful looks. Nair's caution made sense. A prodigy like this might recoil at coercion. How do you propose we approach her? Long Yeyuo asked. Nair considered briefly. Gently. We should approach peacefully, learn what she needs, and then convince her slowly. Only by earning her trust can we bring her to Shrek Academy. Yali nodded. Nair's right. Sincerity and patience will move someone like this, not force. Long Yeyue conceded, though impatience showed behind her calm exterior. Very well. We'll proceed as you suggest, but we cannot be passive. We must discover her location as quickly as possible. Nair's eyes blazed with determination. I'll keep sensing for her. If I pick up anything new, I'll inform you at once. They all knew how much was at stake. If Shrek Academy could find and cultivate a talent like this, its future would be transformed. Ever since arriving in Donghai City, Nair had felt a faint, extraordinary aura, an intimacy with the world and nature she had never encountered. Even without inheriting the Silver Dragon King's full authority, she remained a part of that entity and was unusually attuned to natural elements. The first time she felt the presence, she had been astonished. The winds seemed to sing, the heartbeat of the earth felt like cheering. Everything in the world seemed to celebrate the existence. Nair had never sensed anything so pure and potent. It felt as if the existence was the world embodied. She immediately suspected this was the genius she'd been searching for, someone whose resonance with the world could lead to divinity. But as she reached out further with her mental force, the aura abruptly vanished, as though cut off by some power. Nair's heart leapt. The other party may already have noticed her probing. She dared not push further and stopped, choosing to wait for a safer moment. Far above the city, Chen Zhou had already homed in on Nair's location through his own mental force. He stood on a high rooftop, looking down toward the hotel where the Shrek Academy party was staying. Cold contempt shadowed his face. Shrek Academy, he muttered, still restless as ever. He wasn't truly afraid of them. If not for the fact the Jisho Chamber of Commerce's influence hadn't fully consolidated, for fear that chaos might damage his Douluo Star, and for two schemers entrenched at the core of the world who still fed off opportunities like parasites, he would have already sent Huowuji to sweep them aside. Those schemers were currently distracted by his accidental creation of the Star God, yet Shrek Academy dared to provoke him. A gleam of frosty amusement crossed Chen Zhou's eyes. Then his figure wavered and disappeared into the night, leaving the city to its quiet, tenuous peace. Chapter 196, Asking for Someone. Before long, Golden Claw God arrived with purple armor, the East Sea Legion's auxiliary patrol squad, and the Jisho Chamber of Commerce's Black Armor Guard, stationed in East Sea City. They completely surrounded the floating smoke hotel. The 480 Black Armor Guards were each on the cusp of 10-level combat energy. The 1,200 Black Armor Patrol members were all Black Armor Beast Vanguards, seasoned fighters with terrifying strength. The 1,680 Black Armor Beast troops, even when in human form, could still employ the six-pointed star array. That special formation, devised by the prodigious Golden Claw God, scaled with numbers, its power multiplying as more soldiers joined. With such manpower and a strong core, it could even trap a war king. The army encircled the floating smoke hotel like an impenetrable iron ring. Even Vice Pavilion Master Long felt the pressure. Composed almost entirely of at least spirit kings, the formation pulsed with morale and power, an unshakable fortress. Long Yewei stood at a shattered window, watching the dense ranks of black armor troops and feeling her stomach twist. She had always known the Jisho Chamber wasn't weak, but seeing an army of this scale tightened her chest. Without a Super Douluo present, even a titled Douluo could be surrounded and slaughtered by such a force. From the vantage of spirit domain-level mental power, a Super Douluo could bleed out if confronted by a military unit that had already honed a military spirit. "What do they want?" she murmured. As Vice Pavilion Master of the Sea God Pavilion and a representative of Shrek Academy, she could not stand by. She willed her spirit power to surge. "Presumptuous!" she shouted. "Do you know where this is? I want to see Huowuji." Her 99th level Limit Douluo spirit power burst forth, shattering the window. Roars of dragons echoed as she unleashed the aura of her quasi-god level twin spirits, Light and Dark Holy Dragon, hoping to cow the black armor troops into submission. They didn't flinch. Instead, the troops raised their weapons in unison, eyes cold, waiting on command. Soul-guided machine cannons unfolded from their arms and shoulders. The dark, yawning muzzles seemed to hold world-shattering force, aimed straight at the place where Long Yewei stood. With one order, thousands of cannons could erase the floating smoke hotel from East Sea City. Her fear was not for herself, but for the students inside the hotel. She'd never seen such disciplined soldiers. Not even Shrek Academy's elite could match them. Long Yewei swallowed hard. Even as a Limit Douluo, she could not act rashly against a formation this massive, especially one that could instantly activate a special array. She calmed herself and spoke through clenched teeth. "We are guests of Shrek Academy. Is this how the Jisho Chamber treats visitors? I want to see Huo Wuji." A deep voice answered. "Good wine for friends, a hunting rifle for wolves." Before she could respond, Golden Claw God stepped forward from the ranks. He was tall, clad in golden armor, etched with intricate patterns that seemed to hold vast power. His gaze was piercing. "Vice Pavilion Master Long, I have heard your name," he said with a slight nod, "but today's matter cannot be settled with a single word from you." Long Yewei's unease deepened. Golden Claw God was a man capable of severing Zhang Xin's arm, no one to be taken lightly. "Golden Claw God, what is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "Shrek Academy and the Jisho Chamber have always kept to ourselves. Are you trying to provoke us?" Golden Claw God's lips curled in a cold smile. "Vice Pavilion Master Long, you are mistaken. We value harmony and do not provoke others, but your people crossed the line today." She shot a glance toward Yali and Nair standing behind her. They looked bewildered, just as the other students did. They had only recently recovered from their earlier injuries. Nothing had even left the hotel. How had they crossed any line? "Speak plainly," Long Yewei said. "Shrek Academy acts openly and honestly. If there's been a misunderstanding, we can clear it up." Golden Claw God's eyes narrowed. "Very well, I'll be direct. Your people attempted to attack an important figure of my Jisho Chamber of Commerce today. How do you explain that?" Long Yewei's heart dropped. The important figure could only be the same genius-type aura that Nair had sensed earlier. She turned to Nair, expression heavy. Nair's face flushed with alarm. "Senior Golden Claw God," Nair stepped forward, voice trembling. "There must be a misunderstanding. I had no ill intent. I only sensed a special aura and wanted to make contact." Golden Claw God sneered, contempt evident. "No ill intent? Your people always claim righteousness, but act in the shadows. If we hadn't discovered this in time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. If we had not intervened, you probably wouldn't even have inquired. You would have simply taken our person away." Long Yewei's face hardened. Whatever had happened, it was serious. She took a steadying breath and lowered her voice until it was cold and controlled. "Golden Claw God, we truly didn't know that person belonged to your chamber. If our people were at fault, we will apologize and offer the proper compensation." She bowed her head slightly in a show of contrition while preparing to buy time and protect her students. The courtyard remained tense, the army's guns trained and waiting, and Golden Claw God's unreadable expression hinted that the situation had not yet reached its end. Chapter 197. Overbearing Golden Claw God snorted, coldness flashing in his eyes. "Apologize? Compensate? Vice Pavilion Master Long, you're being naive. This matter can't be settled with a simple apology and a payment. The members of the Jisho Chamber won't tolerate being provoked by your Shrek Academy." Long Yewei's expression hardened. She didn't want an open conflict with the Jisho Chamber, but the other side's attitude had crossed a line. "Golden Claw God, what are you implying? Whether your so-called important person is real or not, even if they belong to your chamber, we didn't act against them. What makes you so sure we would? Are you saying the Jisho Chamber wants war with Shrek Academy?" Golden Claw God sneered, contempt plain in his voice. "War? Vice Pavilion Master Long, you're overestimating yourselves. We don't want enemies with your academy, but if you insist on provoking us, we won't hesitate to show you our strength. Even if your Sea God Pavilion Master Yun Ming were here, he wouldn't dare declare war on the Jisho Chamber." Long Yewei shot back through gritted teeth. As a limit Douluo, she would not be careless, especially with the black-armored beast squad behind Golden Claw God. The pressure from them made her uneasy. Before the confrontation escalated further, a deep, commanding voice cut across the tense air. "Enough." A figure detached itself from the ranks of the black-armored beast unit and walked forward. Tall, silver-white hair, clad in gleaming white and silver armor that shone like a mirror, his presence seemed to contain boundless power. His gaze burned like a torch, fixed on Long Yewei with an unquestioned authority. Huo Wuji. Long Yewei's heart jumped. She recognized him. Even as Vice Pavilion Master of Shrek Academy's Sea God Pavilion, she dared not be reckless with a powerhouse like Huo Wuji. Half a year earlier, he had strode alone into a Sea God Pavilion meeting. His aura had been on par with the pavilion's members, and even Yun Ming had not been able to fully dominate him. Huowuji approached Golden Claw God's side and looked at Long Yewei with cold severity. Hand over the person who tried to spy on our Jishou Chamber's holy maiden. If you do, we'll treat this as a misunderstanding, warn the student, get the facts, and release them. Anger flared in Long Yewei, but she restrained herself. Against the Jishou Chamber, she knew words and posture mattered. She steadied her voice. Huowuji, Shrek Academy will not hand over any student. If you can show proof of improper conduct, we will cooperate, but without evidence, we won't allow you to act recklessly. Golden Claw God cut in immediately. Are you challenging our authority? On this territory, your Shrek Academy has no right to provoke us. Presumptuous, Long Ye snapped. If you think Shrek Academy is something you can insult at will, then be clear. Continue this, and Shrek Academy's wrath will descend on these lands. She had had enough. Her 99th rank spirit power flared. Age lines smoothed from her face as the holy light dragon manifested behind her, a blinding golden apparition that set the sky aglow. Spirit power flooded the area, her limit Douluo pressure unleashed like a tide. Golden Claw God only sneered. Rising smoothly into the air, he looked down at her with disdain. Normally composed, he was also one of the Beast Clan's greatest generals, close to the War King, ruthless, fierce, bloodthirsty by nature. He had never feared foes. To him, even a limit Douluo like Long Yewei was only an obstacle to be stepped over. If you want to fight, I'll give you the chance, he said, sarcasm dripping from every word. Within 20 exchanges, if you're not dead by then, I'll concede. The challenge landed like a hammer. Long Yewei, a dignified 99th rank limit Douluo who had long dominated the Spirit Master world, felt a flash of fury at being so belittled. Golden Claw God, you are arrogant. I, Long Yewei, have ruled the Spirit Master world for decades. No one has ever dared to look down on me like this. Golden Claw God smiled faintly, contempt barely concealed. Vice Pavilion Master Long, strength isn't proved by words. If you're dissatisfied, make your move. I, Golden Claw God, will see this through. Tension snapped taut, the air thick with the scent of gunpowder. Their auras collided like two mountains, pressing the very space flat. The Holy Light Dragon's phantom coalesced behind Long Yewei, its radiance rivaling the sun and bathing the floating smoke hotel in golden light. Her spirit fluctuations swelled, and her limit Douluo pressure threatened to crush everything. Still, Golden Claw God hovered calmly, a faint, almost imperceptible smile at his lips. His golden armor flashed coldly in the sunlight like an immovable war god. Wait! Yali called from within the floating smoke hotel, unleashing her spirit power and shooting into the sky to block Long Yewei. If this fight had broken out in Shrek City, the Sea God Pavilion and the Academy's titled Douluo could back her. Here, in the East Sea and on Jishou Chamber territory, the consequences of an open clash could not be predicted, and Shrek City was too far to come to their aid. Your Excellency Golden Claw God, there must be a misunderstanding, Yali said, gentle but firm, her voice carrying a plea. I am willing to bring Nair to submit to the Jishou Chamber's inspection and questioning. Once the misunderstanding is cleared, allow us to leave safely. Chapter 198, Xuanli. She will be my most perfect student. Looking at the woman rumored to be the kindest on the continent, Golden Claw God did not disdain Yali for her submissiveness. After all, the woman before him was Saint Spirit Douluo, the angel of prayer, famed for burning her faith and life force to travel across 14 provinces, healing and saving people. Mentioning Saint Spirit Douluo might not ring a bell to everyone, but invoking the angel of prayer would stir overwhelming support. Yali was almost the will of the people. Golden Claw God admired that, so he lowered himself in the sky until he was level with Yali and said, Of course Saint Spirit Douluo may accompany me. My Jishou Chamber of Commerce is not so heartless as to harm a young girl. As he spoke, he shot a measured look toward Nair inside the floating smoke hotel. When he had first surrounded the hotel, he had felt two extraordinary gazes fix on him from afar, powerful, unmistakable presences. The aura of spirit beasts. What could make two fierce beast-level existences expose themselves and step into such dangerous ground? Hearing Golden Claw God's promise, Yali exhaled gently and then instructed Long Yewei, Elder Long, Please take the students back to their rooms and do not act rashly. I will go with Golden Claw God to the Jisho Chamber of Commerce to sort this out. Rest assured, I will ensure Nair's safety. Long Yewei's brows tightened. She did not fully approve of Yali's decision, but the situation left no room to insist. She nodded once and answered in a low voice, Yali, be careful. If anything goes wrong, notify me immediately. Yali offered a faint, reassuring smile. Elder Long, I will handle it. Then she turned to Golden Claw God with calm authority. Let us go. Golden Claw God inclined his head, his gaze scanning Long Yewei and the Shrek Academy members inside the hotel. Then he said in a cool tone, I hope you keep your promise and do not act rashly. Otherwise, there will be consequences. Long Yewei snorted but said nothing more, though her eyes still betrayed vigilance and displeasure. Golden Claw God led Yali and Nair away from the hotel, and his black armored beast troops slowly withdrew from around the floating smoke hotel as ordered, still alert, keyed to any unusual movement from the Shrek Academy people. Meanwhile, Chen Zhou had already arrived at a secluded spot in Donghai City, a cultivation ground he had specially prepared for Xuanli, ringed with protective formations to guarantee her safety. Xuanli sat on a patch of green grass, eyes closed, sensing the ebb and flow of heaven and earth energies. A faint purple halo wreathed her, as if she had merged with the world around her. Chen Zhou stood quietly at her side, watching. He knew Xuanli's growth would be long and delicate. He had to observe and guide her carefully. Brother, you're here. Xuanli opened her eyes slowly. They glittered like starlight, and a pure smile brightened her face. Chen Zhou smiled in return and patted her shoulder gently. How do you feel? Any discomfort? Xuanli shook her head obediently. No, I feel very good. The energy here is pure. It's comfortable. Chen Zhou nodded. Star gods did not need cultivation in the ordinary sense. Their power reached a peak from birth. Absent some supreme treasure of source-level power, a star god's birth was often the apex. But Xuanli's intelligence was newborn. She couldn't yet control that vast power, which was why Chen Zhou had set up restraints and a careful plan. He intended to teach her the heaven and earth refinement alchemy, a discipline that would hone the precision of control, exactly what she needed. Given that Xuanli was born of the natural world and the planet's core, the refinement fit her nature-attuned constitution perfectly. He looked at Xuanli with a mixture of relief and worry. Her power was immense, but her character was still as innocent as a child's. Power without wisdom could become a disaster. Xuanli, he said softly, I found the person who called you. Would you like to meet her? Xuanli blinked with curiosity. Brother, who is she? Why is she calling me? Chen Zhou's hand stroked her small head. Her name is Nair. She's a student from Shrek Academy. She's taken an interest in you and wants you to come study at her academy. I'm not convinced her motives are simple, so I want to take you to meet her and see for myself. Xuanli nodded. Okay, I'll listen to you, brother. Chen Zhou smiled, satisfaction warm in his chest. He took Xuanli's hand and led her away from the cultivation ground toward the Jisho Chamber of Commerce headquarters. On the walk, Xuanli's childlike dependence surfaced. Brother, Xuanli doesn't want to go to an academy for school. Okay. Brother, Xuanli wants brother to always teach me. Okay. Brother, Xuanli doesn't want to be separated from you. Okay. Why does brother always say okay? Because brother doesn't want to be separated from Xuanli either. Rubbing her head, Chen Zhou couldn't help a small smile. The feeling, so unexpected, so tender, wasn't unwelcome. Seeing Xuanli happy warmed him. Though he had created her, she had become an indispensable part of his life. Xuanli, she would be his most perfect student. They arrived at the Jisho Chamber of Commerce. Golden Claw God had been waiting with Yali and Nair. When he saw Chen Zhou and Xuanli, he stepped forward and saluted with formal courtesy. Young master, the people have been brought. Chen Zhou inclined his head and let his gaze sweep over Yali and Nair, lingering on Nair with a careful scrutiny, as if trying to see into her heart. Nair felt it. Though young, as the humanized avatar of the Silver Dragon King, she possessed keen perception. Chen Zhou's aura was powerful and mysterious, as if he were one with heaven and earth, unfathomable. You are Nair? Chen Zhou asked, his voice even, carrying an air of undisputed authority. Nair hesitated for only a moment. Her chest tightened, but she kept her face calm. Yes, it's me. Chapter 199. Nair Seen. Through Chen Zhou's gaze stayed fixed on Nair, as if cataloging every flicker of expression on her face. His eyes were deep and cold, radiating a pressure that made her heart stutter. She had never felt anything like it. Even the titled Douluo of Shrek Academy paled beside the aura he gave off. This was not the pressure of raw strength or spirit power. It reached past bloodlines and aimed straight for the soul, as if probing her very essence. A prickle of fear rose in Nair, but she forced herself to look composed. She could not show timidity now. Doing so would not only put herself at a disadvantage, but might also embroil Yali and Shrek Academy. Chen Zhou's stare lingered for a moment longer, then moved to Yali. His eyes were still cold, but his tone softened a touch. Saint Spirit Douluo, I have admired your name for some time. Yali inclined her head slightly, calm and respectful. Young Master Chen, there may be a misunderstanding about today. Shrek Academy harbors no ill intent. Nair only sensed a strange aura and wanted to investigate. If we offended, please forgive us. Chen Zhou smiled faintly, meaning behind the smile. Saint Spirit Douluo, no need for such formality. Mighty Show Chamber of Commerce has always valued peace and does not provoke others. Still, it did surprise me. Miss Nair's perception is extraordinary to detect Xuanli's presence. Hearing that, Yali's heart tightened. She glanced at the delicate, jade-skinned girl standing beside Chen Zhou. It was obvious how highly the Jisho Chamber prized this child. She might one day ascend to godhood. Whatever her feelings, Yali could do nothing. The child now belonged to someone else. She hastened to explain. Young Master Chen, Nair means no harm. She was simply curious about the aura and wanted to contact it. Shrek Academy respects others' privacy and would not overstep. Chen Zhou nodded and returned his gaze to Nair. As he opened his mouth, Xuanli tugged at his sleeve and whispered something. What is it, Xuanli? Chen Zhou crouched down, and a gentleness no one would have expected from the aloof young master softened his face. Xuanli blinked and murmured, Brother, this auntie smells like Xiangxiang, so she can't be bad. Chen Zhou raised an eyebrow, glanced at Yali in surprise, then back at Nair, a flicker of thought crossing his expression. He gently patted Xuanli's small hand to reassure her, then stood and resumed his formal demeanor. Saint Spirit, may I speak privately with this Nair? And I would ask you to talk with Xuanli as well. She said she likes you very much. Chen Zhou looked at the two from Shrek before him. Though he felt no particular affection for them, he trusted Xuanli's instinct. A star god's subconscious affinity was like a planetary will, far beyond ordinary judgment, able to sense the fundamental goodness or malice in a person. Yali was taken aback by the request and glanced at Nair with concern. Nair understood her godmother's unease and nodded once to assure her. After a moment's thought, seeing there was no way to resist, Yali could only concede. Of course, young Master Chen. Nair, go and speak with him. For the first time, Yali felt powerless, yet almost at once, a pair of tiny hands slipped into hers. Xuanli had stepped forward and tilted her face up, smiling innocently. Auntie, Xuanli wants to play with you, okay? Yali's heart softened at the little girl's warmth. She crouched, took Xuanli's hand gently, and said, Of course, Xuanli, Auntie would like that. Xuanli beamed and dragged Yali toward a garden within the Jisho Chamber's compound, her smile like sunlight that chased away gloom. Yali watched them go, strangely comforted by the child's purity and kindness. Xuanli's true identity remained unknown to her, but the impression was unmistakable. Chen Zhou signaled Golden Claw God to watch over Yali, then led Nair away. Nair's apprehension lingered, but she knew she had no alternatives. She followed him to a secluded room within the Jisho headquarters. There, Chen Zhou took a large chair and fixed his gaze calmly on her. The earlier coldness had melted into scrutiny and curiosity. Sit, he said, indicating the chair opposite him. Nair sat carefully, hands folded in her lap, trying to look composed, even as her heart hammered. Nair, I know your identity is not simple, Chen Zhou said directly. Under his mental force, everything Nair tried to hide was laid bare. Chen Zhou had glanced into the planet's erased core and seen histories no one else had, the Silver Dragon King's split personalities and clones. The truth was clear to him, Guyuo and Nair. Nair's heart jolted, but she kept her voice steady. Young Master Chen, I don't know what you mean. I'm just an ordinary student of Shrek Academy. I don't have any special identity. Chen Zhou's smile carried a depth that made her blood run cold. Dragon God Split, co-lord of the spirit beasts, Silver Dragon King. Shall I continue? Color drained from Nair's face. She trembled, panic flashing in her eyes. She had never expected this mysterious man to see through her at a glance. As a subordinate personality clone of the Silver Dragon King, her existence had been the Soul Beast Clan's deepest secret. Even many at Shrek Academy were unaware. You. How do you know? She stammered, fear and alarm tightening her words. Chen Zhou's expression turned hard. An indifferent, ancient light rolled behind his gaze, cold as the starry void. How I know is irrelevant. You should understand that whatever plans you soul beasts have are none of my concern. Frankly, I couldn't care less about your rotten schemes. Chapter 200, Fear. I called you here only to tell you not to provoke me. Do you understand? That deep, glacial stare was enough to make Nair feel as if she had been dropped into an endless ice cave, surrounded by killing intent and bound, her whole body trembling. She bit her lip to steady herself. I understand. Her voice shook. A fear she had never known before flooded her completely. Chen Zhou watched the panic darken her features, and a faint curve appeared at the corner of his mouth, exactly the effect he wanted. He intended to make her terrified enough of Xuanli's existence that she would never again entertain so much as a passing thought about her. As a subordinate personality of the Silver Dragon King, Chen Zhou didn't care what Nair had thought of Xuanli before. What mattered was that from now on, she think of her no more. You can rest assured, I won't interfere in your affairs lightly. As long as you do not anger me, continue with your childish schemes. His voice was low and unyielding, an order beyond argument. When you go back, tell the others not to approach Xuanli again. Why? Nair finally found her voice, desperate to understand. Because she is mine. Chen Zhou spoke with cool authority. Although your power is strong, to me it is like an ant. If you insist on having needless thoughts about what belongs to me, I will not hesitate to wipe out the last remnants of your spirit beast territory before I unify the world. Under Chen Zhou's icy gaze, Nair finally understood how grave the situation was. Fear flickered through her chest, and she felt a new, profound awareness of the depths behind this young master. Now that she knew she was only a subordinate aspect of the Silver Dragon King, she could see how little protection she really had. I won't go near Xuanli again. She spoke haltingly, forcing her voice to sound firm rather than terrified. I only wanted to know who she is, why she's here. That's not something you should concern yourself with. Chen Zhou cut her off coldly. A thought had crossed Chen Zhou's mind. If he killed Nair and used the original energy amethyst to imprint her into the Silver Dragon King's genes, could it greatly strengthen the Mecha Beast Clan? Once the idea formed, it continued to grow. But he weighed the risks. If the Silver Dragon King acted rashly, or if the Spirit Beasts and Shrek Academy united, only Huo Wuji might hold them off. The Silver Dragon King, with her first-rank god power, could not be destroyed lightly. So he let the thought go. If the so-called co-ruler wanted to play these petty games, then let her play. Time was on his side. They left the secret room after only a few minutes. Nair, known as the Dragon Spear Goddess at Shrek Academy, hung her head, shaken. Her eyes still flashed with the residue of that overwhelming killing intent. They walked out of the Jisho Chamber of Commerce headquarters toward the garden, where Yali and Xuanli were playing under warm sunlight. Yali was gently teaching Xuanli the basics of spirit power. Xuanli listened with bright, curious eyes, breaking into childish laughter now and then. Aunt Shangshang, why is your power so warm? She asked. Yali paused, then smiled softly. Because I use my heart to help those who need help. Power isn't for show, it's for protection. Her words were like spring rain, gentle and nourishing, and they touched Xuanli deeply. Then I want to learn from my brother, to become strong and protect those I love. Xuanli clenched her small fists, fierce determination shining in her eyes. Yali's heart warmed. If you work hard, you'll get there. True power comes from kindness and courage inside. The innocent exchange not only enlightened Xuanli, but also brought Yali a rare, quiet happiness. It was then that Chen Zhou and Nair approached. Your Holiness, I have completed the inquiries and warnings I needed to make. You may go, Chen Zhou said. He seldom showed warmth to outsiders. Yali was an exception. Though he prided himself on not meddling in others' fates, he respected Yali's selfless devotion. People hoped in their darkest moments for someone like her. He might someday use that goodness as a tool, but that did not prevent him from honoring it now. Thank you, young Master Chen. Yali bowed slightly. She understood the dangers wrapped up in what had just happened and was grateful. Chen Zhou glanced at Nair, the look in his eyes sharp. I hope you remember today's lesson. Be careful what you say and do. I know, Nair answered, though the warning had reached into her very soul. Even the memory of his gaze seemed to set the killing intent thrumming again through her, sending shivers down her spine. She struggled to keep calm, but fear spread through her like a stain. Then I won't trouble you further. Chen Zhou's tone was indifferent, his presence projecting unquestioned control. It was clear he had no wish to linger. Yali noticed the torment in Nair's face and felt a pang of helplessness. She turned to Chen Zhou with a hopeful smile. Young Master Chen, I hope we can cooperate again in the future. Me too, he replied, then took Xuanli's small hand and began to leave. Goodbye, Aunt Xiangxiang. Goodbye. Yali waved as they left. Then she took Nair's hand in hers, her voice soft and kind. Nair, I'll take you home.